Hi everyone, thank you for joining the Scoring Made Easy updates. We will hopefully finish within about half an hour or so, or maybe 40 minutes. And if there's any questions, please post them in the chat as well. Otherwise, you've got all my contact details, so please reach out if there's anything that you can think of post this. So on the agenda today, we're going to run through the summary of SME or Scoring Made Easy and just run through what we do as a reminder to those, because I know many of you don't have all our modules. So just to show you what we do have out there. Then secondly, we'll look at the latest developments, we'll look at our current developments, and we'll look at the future developments. And then lastly, we'll end up with some tournament control tips and tricks that I've obviously learned from being in that hot seat. As I'm sure some of you have also been running tournaments, so you probably understand, and hopefully you'll get some benefit from all of the above. So let's jump into a summary. So quite often, the most often asked question at a sports facility is effectively, what's the score? So that's what drove us to Scoring Made Easy. And we therefore created the app, created the capabilities, created all this visual way of showing what we do with Scoring Made Easy and showing that score to whether it's parents, whether it's kids, whether it's players or anyone who is at the facility. And the idea is even showing the score, this live score, to those who are remote as well, hence our mobile app capabilities. Now, obviously, what's the score is a tricky question, because by the time you've answered that, effectively that answer is no longer even valid, because effectively the score may have updated, so therefore the next answer is different. So hence, by having this visually on a TV, as you can see in this example on your scoring app, it's just very important to be able to see what that is. Okay, so let's say we've now got the score, we know what that is. So we want to now check in and we want to actually understand, well, what's the next thing that quite often players wish or want to know. And that is, well, how long before their next match? So with Scoring Made Easy, and I love this photo of Surf City Squash Club, who've got the two big TVs at the end of their club. And on the left-hand side, it shows the draws. And these draws are live, by the way. And on the right-hand side is all the schedules. So the idea is now players can actually look at their own schedules on these dashboards, on these screens, so that they can determine when they need to be ready for their next matches. And also they can be prepared so that they do their warm-ups, or they can maybe even shoot into town to go and work out how long they want to go into town for before the next match. They've also got access on their mobile devices as well. So yeah, so very important to have that visible and have that information available for not only for tournament control, but also to the players themselves. So we can check the scores, we know when the next game times are, which then, exactly as I said, is, can I nip into town, is quite often the question asked, normally followed by, I will be quick. So in the future, part of our future developments, we are adding some push notifications to your mobile. So then the player, or whoever's got the app on there, the SME Live app, Scoring Made Easy Live app on their mobile phone, will actually get a notification if they are entered in that tournament to say, obviously, yes, they'll have to be logged in. So just be mindful of that. Once they've logged in, they will then get a notification to say they're next on or get ready. They can turn those notifications on or off. This will be as part of a future development that we're busy with. So yeah, so watch that space. Other typical questions for tournament control was then quite often, well, what is the result of that match? Is there any live streaming? What is the link to the live streaming? Have I paid? So you can imagine, 100 or so players at a tournament, and each of these may be asking these 4 or 5 questions. That then means, or equates to, like 400 to 500 questions that tournament control has to answer. So normally leads to a next comment, which is, wow, tournament control seems grumpy today, and this is why. So that's where Scoring Made Easy comes in, and that's what we're trying to and do resolve for many clubs that use our full suite. Obviously, if you're only taking some of our features, we can help in those areas as well. A couple of example photos taken from various clubs, showing the apps, showing the dashboards, mobile phone access, and things like that. So just to show you it is out there. This is our scoring app currently, with these apps that are supported, or these scoring methods that are supported. Growing rapidly, and more to come on that very shortly. But the idea is we can then take this live score from the tablet or mobile phone, depending what you're using, and we can then present that onto a big screen TV. So quite often the squash courts will have a TV in their squash courts, and we can then visualize that onto a big screen as well. Meaning the spectators now aren't, I mean, you can think when you've got paper in front of you, quite often you leaned over writing that on that piece of paper, so no one can actually see what the score is. Maybe you're a junior, you're not actually even verbalizing or calling the score out. So at least this way, spectators, players, everyone can glance up, look at the screen. Or alternatively, I'll just go back to the screen here, there's also the speaker capability. So you can have a Bluetooth speaker where this voice can be heard. Something coming in the updates here too, so watch out for that. Anyway, so you can hear the voice or the score, and you can see the live score here too. Maybe for other facilities, let's say tennis club, or even some of the squash clubs, maybe even soccer, actually in the bar area, you may wish to have another TV showing all your fields, or all your hockey fields, all your badminton courts, all your tennis, squash, whatever it may be, on one screen, and that can then show those live scores across the whole facility. So there's lots of ways of visualizing the scores. Let's take this to the next level. We then can start live streaming those matches as well. Now, that guy in the top right-hand corner, as you can see, that looks like a fairly complex setup. The idea is we've actually simplified that just with a single mobile phone. Sure, okay, maybe a battery pack, depending on how long you wish to live stream for. But the key thing that we do is we overlay the score using that mobile phone there. So one device, we will overlay the live score on that. So from that same scoring tablet over here, when you enter 914 on this, or whenever you update the score, it will update on the live stream within 2 seconds. It's probably our average at the moment. So not only is it now nice you're watching a live stream or a live match of some kind, but also you can understand what the score is. And that was one of my Facebook posts that I did, was spot the difference. Was really by watching a match. I've seen many matches on that I get through Facebook that people will stream, and at first I'm like, oh cool, there's a live match, and then within 3 minutes I'm going, there's no live score, I've got no idea what the score is, and then I lose interest because I don't know how close it is, who's winning, etc., etc. So anyway, so adding score on over the top I think is important, and we have a very simple way of doing that. So we've spoken about the scoring app, how you can visualize that, how you can have speakers linked to that. Through our SME manager, the Scoring Made Easy manager, we then can also feed that score back and do some live streaming in a very simple way, one single mobile app. We can also visualize that at the bar or something, show maybe the whole facilities, courts or fields or whatever it may be. We then also do schedules from the SME manager. There's several scheduled views you can choose from as well, depending on your preference. Like a top-down list, or in this case, we've actually showed which courts they are on. We have ways we can build these schedules. So we do have a match builder. So if you aren't using our full tournament capabilities, you can actually build, and it's very easy, just under our match control. You just build the schedule, add the first player, the second player, the scoring method, and you can actually build this exact schedule here. So many times I've seen Excel spreadsheets or handwritten notes or whiteboards or stuff happen, and the point is here you can graphically make this as visual and quite impactful, and therefore you can also even have access on that mobile phone, so players can actually see where their schedules are sitting on that too. So the build schedule is a great feature. Anyway, if you are using our tournament module, then we would have automated the schedules, as you can see there, and then that would automatically populate our tournament draws. So the idea is there's automation here. You don't need anyone to have to go and write up manual scores or manual draws on paper that you've pinned to your pin boards or things like that. It's all automated. So the minute the scores come from the left-hand side, it's populated through, and it'll start populating, completing the schedules, updating the schedules, and completing your draws as well. Now, keep in mind, all this is visible and able to access on your mobile phones too, through our SME Live app. So if you went to scoringmadeeasy.com, on the top right-hand corner, you'll see there's a little SME Live. You don't have to log in or anything like that. You can just click that. You'll see all the sports we currently support, and you can drill down to the various clubs within each of those sports. That's going to be growing very rapidly over the next year, so keep an eye on that. This is the scoring app. So we've got live scores, live schedules, estimated match times. Very important, because I had an example where a player came and played a tennis tournament. had a couple of kids, and she took the kids out for an ice cream afterwards and said it was absolutely fantastic because it was the first tournament she could actually take the kids for the ice cream and not feel pressure into rushing back to the club, because she could track the matches live. They could see when she needed to be back, and therefore they could enjoy their time out in town having their ice cream and make sure they were back in time for their tournament as well. Through the same mobile app, you get the recently completed matches. We also have a calendar, a what's on module, so you can actually visualize what's happening at your club from Monday through to Sunday. Again, I've seen this in Excel spreadsheets, and I just think the time, look, not trying to saying that they look fantastic, but I guess I always think about the time to maintain and update that compared to having something that's maybe more purpose-built for that capability. Again, you've got the link to live streaming. So in our case, we quite often use YouTube as probably our preferred, but Facebook and other methods are available as well. You can add your Facebook link to here. So the idea of this mobile app is not only, even if you're unsubscribed to our modules, you actually, as a facility, will get a free mobile app or a club app. So you can then start having this club app available to all of your members and visitors. And so they can watch live scores if you do have our subscriptions, or obviously some of these other components will require a subscription. If you don't have any subscription, you can do custom links to maybe a book a court or to your website or to your sponsors. So you can still use this free club app in many, many other ways, and hopefully grow that with some of the live capabilities that we enable. Now, keep in mind, for those facilities that have multiple sports at your single facility. So I have seen there is other apps for, let's say, individual sports out there. With this app, because we cover all those sports, we can provide you that central platform, and you can then drill into, let's say, squash, and then link from there to whichever their club app they may provide within that for grading or something like that. Or you can hit tennis, and then from there you can provide a shortcut to the world tennis number grading list. So at least you are, as a club, whether you have 3 sports at that club, providing a central common place for your members to visit, and then from there they can divert out into wherever they need to go from there. Sponsors, sorry, I just mentioned sponsors. I don't see sponsors on the bottom there. We've got capabilities with sponsors, and the idea is around funding. There was also Sport Bay of Plenty recently did a very good talk around funding and how you can achieve funding for a lot of this. So if you haven't seen that webinar, please go and have a look at the Sport Bay of Plenty. I'm sure you can find it there on their website. Otherwise, again, happy to help. My understanding of where you are able to potentially get funding. This is obviously, I'm New Zealand based, so I can probably help from a New Zealand market. But overseas, depending on where your funding capabilities come from, I guess maybe similar components for lotteries apply, and you can apply for those. The sponsors we have here is you can approach businesses that may wish to give you some vouchers for maybe their food court, something in you, or someone may give you some cash to run a tournament or something like that, and therefore you can take their logos, import that into Scoring Made Easy, and those logos will then show on all our dashboards, on the apps. So you are getting back to those sponsors very quickly, very easily. You don't have to go and print anything. You don't have to go and make any big tin things that go on your courts and go up as advertising around your facility. It's all just an image that you upload into Scoring Made Easy, select it as a gold, a silver, or a bronze sponsor, and you can manage how you take any financials from that or whatever the sponsorship was. But the idea is we give back to the sponsors by showing the sponsors on Scoring Made Easy live across all our modules. So let's move on to the latest developments. Quite exciting. We've done some really cool things, and again, because we're working in this space and I'm running tournaments continuously, I'm continually making improvements to what we do as Scoring Made Easy, and the developments in the space. So, and also thank you very much to feedback from the clubs that use us as well, because without the feedback, it helps us. It does help us grow and improve things to make it as easy as possible. The idea of why I sort of came up with Scoring Made Easy really was around the volunteers' time, and how do we provide the right tools so that the time can be reduced without entering in, because hundreds of scores, or I do have a couple of places where or a couple of people that have mentioned they've spent 8 hours manually entering in scores for a certain tournament, and that's where cheekily he came to me asking, can I help, knowing that I can, because we could that time is completely removed when you're using Scoring Made Easy because it's automated from the scoring apps. So that's 8 hours that this particular person could then rather put into tournament or event management rather than score entry. And that's the key thing, is utilizing the people for what they're worth rather than just giving them tasks that could be automated. So base developments, one of the things is, for those who are familiar with our tournament capabilities, we've got this manage matches screen on the left hand side, and if you now tick a box and then select the up, it'll select all the ones above that, or if you click the down, it'll select everything below that. And the idea of this is that you can then mark those matches that you've selected to be hidden from view, reviewed, on hold, or even push those matches to the devices as well. Now, what I mean by pushing is these matches will then on, let's say, let's talk squash. If you've got a court, you push this match to that court, it'll pop up with queued match. You select the match. It's all been pre-configured with the scoring methods. In other words, they're playing to, let's say, 11 or 15, best of 3, best of 5, whatever it is, 1 by 1. That was all pre-configured. They select the match and they start their match and they start scoring. And then obviously the whole automation around that just happens once that match is completed and it's live. So nice little selection way here, nice improvement of being able to select all those matches, because you may, where that's quite often used to hide the matches. These are the icons here on the right-hand side. To hide the match means that maybe you only want to show the schedules for the Friday night and you want to hide Saturday and Sunday. So you can basically select everything underneath from the Saturday onwards and hide those matches that they're not shown. The other one that quite often this gets used is to maybe hide the schedules. For example, if you have a tournament that is running early or running late, and therefore you don't really want people to follow the schedules as such, you want them to be there on time, and hopefully they're tracking through our SME Live as well. You can actually hide those schedules for those matches. Alternatively, you could select a particular match that was maybe moved because someone wasn't able to attend that match, or had contacted you to say, look, I'm late by now, stuck in traffic. Maybe you can then hide that schedule for that particular match and shift so that it's not taken, as that scheduled time. It can then just be hidden, and it's based on what we call estimated time, because then they can see when they need to be ready for that match as well. Another one we've improved on, or actually added, should I say, is a quick search. So this here is our schedules, or also our managed tournament page. And the red ones are one particular division, purple's another division, green's another division, etc., etc. So you can then click the little magnifying glass on any of these matches on this page, and that'll pop up this little icon or this little graphic here. The left one is, if you select that, it'll basically highlight everything in that division, so you can quickly see when are those matches for that particular division. So it's a nice visual way of sorting or filtering those matches. Alternatively, you can click the A or the B, and it's going to choose the player on the left or the player on the right, so player A or player B. And in this case, if we said player A, it would look for test account across, and it'll also visualize that for you. So that's what our quick search does, and that should be across our schedules and manage tournament page as well. This little pop-up here is across both manage tournament and manage matches pages. We used to have, when you click the match, it used to pop up something different on each of those pages, and so anyway, we've simplified that by making this all in the same concept and the same look and feel. And so this just becomes more familiar with you, rather than feeling like it's something different and you've clicked on something and you've got to sort of scan through. So really, it's about familiarity. You can then quickly see and work from here, whether you want to add a score, whether you need to reset this, whether you need to default a player, whether you need to edit a player. So the edit player allows you to say, let's say myself, Sean, was unable to make that match, but yet Jim over there suddenly said, look, I can fill in. You can then edit player and replace Sean with Jim. Now, when you click the edit player, there's a couple of functions here just to mention. You can either select Jim if he is in our Scoring Made Easy database, but let's say he's not. There's also a green plus button, which means you can add a temporary account, because the reason for this is we know now you're in the crux of the tournament, it's busy, so you don't necessarily have time to say, oh, Jim, can I get your email address and your phone number and sign you up with an account and things like that. So therefore, we allow you the ability to quickly or instantly create a temporary account for Jim, Bear in mind that any of Jim's matches will be not accounted to his particular profile as such, because we've created this temporary account. So be mindful of that, but at least you can create the tournament, replace players, and get them and keep it rolling as quick as possible. You can hide the match here, or you can put it on hold as well. Now you can check in players from the screen, so it's quite handy if they come in and just check them in, make sure they're all there, so that then you know visually again see that, hey, I've got all 4 players for the stubbles. I can send that match or push that match to the device. Fees paid, just a simple tick box. It removes an icon next to the players to show that they have paid their fee. And also, again, it's visual, so the players can see on these dashboards that hopefully you will have around your club that they have or haven't paid their fee. And yeah, more to that coming on fee payment, but it just keeps you across making sure those payments have come in. This box below in the blue here is around player exceptions. So let's say, for example, a player enters your tournament but says, look, I can't play till Friday 9 p.m. That is because they have to drive from some distance before they're going to make your tournament, so they can't make the 6 p.m. slot. So they may add a player exception at entry, and this is where you can then, when you're building the schedules, check and acknowledge that you have correctly maybe shifted this match to 9 p.m. before you push out the tournament. Or there could be any other acknowledgements. Sometimes people just go, hey, looking forward to the tournament, and that's where you can just clear out the acknowledgement as well. So there's a few things in there. Right. This one's pretty cool. And again, this is really from feedback from you, so thank you very much. And that was this top match here in our managed matches. And this is really the page where, when your tournament is live, this is probably the page you sit on most and manage all the individual matches as they come through. The top one here, you can see the little green running man in the red match, because this match is running. Now, the blue one below that is we've actually pushed this match to this court 2. So this match is ready to go on. In theory, court 2 there should be no one on there, because only court 1 has got someone playing. Therefore, court 2 is now free, and those players can go to queued match on the tablet or on that mobile phone that's at this court, and pull that match and start playing that match, which means it will also become red and show match running. Now, there's several ways you can drive this. Basically, you can tick the auto allocation, which means it will self-run, self-populate, self-push all these matches, which also means if you follow these schedules perfectly, reality is you wouldn't need tournament control. And that's ultimately where we want to get to, and we've done it. We have done it. Honestly, I've run tournaments where TC, I've been playing myself. I haven't actually even sat at the desk, because once players have learned, yes, there is player learning. They need to understand the draws, the dashboards. They need to understand what they're looking at. So yes, once we've covered that for the first time, it just gets easier. And players are fairly familiar now. They're going to multiple clubs and seeing it over and over again. So it's becoming more and more familiar for them too. Now, what I'm trying to get to here is one thing I did find when I manually pushed matches to certain courts and certain devices was let's say I'd be looking for test 22 and test 21, but I missed that actually those players are already on court. So I go around calling out, oh, test 22, test 21, test 4, test 3, you guys can go on. Meantime, test 22, test 21 is actually still playing. So that's where I missed. And this little visual just helps you with, hey, these guys are on, don't try and put this match on, because you ain't going to get there. So that was the idea of that. So awesome. These little green exclamation mark here is just talking about those exceptions earlier. That shows you the exception was acknowledged. The reason we acknowledge the exception is, at least if there is multiple people maybe doing your tournament control, they can easily still see what that exception is to make sure that it is still not being impacted because they've now shifted that match, as an example. If you cleared the acknowledgement, then that wouldn't show. If no one has actually addressed the acknowledgement, then it would be in red. It will actually have a red exclamation mark for you. Anyway, so our latest developments here was these little running men showing if the players were on court. Current developments. This is exciting. We are currently building a brand new scoring app. Previously, we had individual scoring apps for each of the sports, and the challenge we had there was every time we built a or needed to do a new sport or a new change or an update to something, we'd have to replicate this change across 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sports, however many we have. So therefore, we're now bundling this all into one scoring app. And depending on your subscriptions or depending on your selection, it will then default that scoring app to, let's say, if you're a squash club, you will initially, when you first load, it will ask the sports, you choose squash, and it'll remember you now on squash. If you clear the cache on that device, yes, you'd have to re-enter it as squash. So then it'll remember it and save it in the local database. The advantage here is obviously we then now have modules for all our various scoring apps, which means we can easily grow our scoring capabilities. And pretty much anything out there, really, we're going to just keep adding these small modules, which means recently I've actually had someone request for whether we can do this for soccer. Yes, absolutely we can, is the answer. Although it would probably take a couple of weeks, if not a month, to actually go and develop the scoring app for soccer, because we have to completely duplicate, clone what we've got, and then do all the scoring methods. With this new app, we basically I will be able to now go into an admin console, select all the various scoring methods. For example, it could be continuous rather than a game at 5 love, or it could be time-based. Different sayings, I can add different verbal text into what I needed to have said, and I can tick all these boxes and I can create a soccer app. Let's say there's a new sport called Gerbil. I can go and create the Gerbil scoring app, tick all the boxes for the different requirements of the scoring app that we've developed. Yes, there may be a new small piece that we may have developed because they've got some strange or weird way of serving. Pickleball being one, for example. So yes, we will have that added in. You can then tick these various options and you can create this Gerbil scoring app. So the idea is we can dynamically create these scoring apps very quickly. So as I mentioned very earlier on, is we can actually expand our scoring capabilities across, and it's going to expand in 2024. Once this is there, anything we can go anywhere, basically, is the idea. Karate, jiu-jitsu, who knows? I just need to know how to score it, and we can build that up very quickly. We also have, with this new scoring app, in fact, I'll go back to here. One of the things that was on the old one was this R and L for squash, for example, wasn't showing very clearly on our apps. So we've created this little black component behind that. So it's going to be a lot more visual. So you can, at least when you glance up, you'll see whether you're serving from the left or the right, because quite often this color would gradient depending on the A or the B as well. So there's various options there, but we've done that. So there's a few subtle changes, and look, there's a lot of other things that I haven't mentioned that we've built into this app with capabilities. But yeah, so there's very exciting times coming with this new scoring app. A lot more efficient and a lot more streamlined. Talking about streamlining, update available. So if there is an update that we've done a new update or push, then basically you'll get this box. You click OK, it'll flicker on your screen once, and your update is applied. Another exciting component with this is the Apple iOS casting. With Apple, we do what we call screen mirroring, not a secondary screen that we can do on Android. So therefore, what you have on your tablet will show on the screen. With Apple, we had black borders down both sides. You can see this one is now scaled or improved the scaling. Yes, you've still got a black border at the top and bottom, but at least it's enlarged that screen as big as possible, rather than shrinking it all in. So we just feel this casting is a lot better in that space. Apple themselves haven't quite come to the full party of our progressive web apps as yet, but we're hoping in the future that they will allow or enable the capability for that secondary display, which is what our Android is capable of. So our Android devices, we actually cast the screen to the TV, but it actually takes the full screen and it acts as a second display. So there's certain window functions we don't necessarily show on the TV at the time. For example, the menu never comes up. We show all the sponsor logos instead, things like that. So yeah, anyway, nice having this iOS casting. So we reduce those side borders, and it's a lot more impactful, nice and visual for that. Obviously, there's going to be ability to change some colors and backgrounds and some personal preference there. So that's all coming too. So as I mentioned, more sports, more easily is ultimately where we're heading, and really just stylizing this new app. So it's looking really, really flash, really nice. And I'm pretty happy, pretty excited about all that. Speaker, one of the other improvements is being able to send the sound, the audio through the TV. So here's that from basic testing that will work, which then reduces the requirement for the speakers on the court, which means you can now cast to the TV and it'll call the audio through that television as well, which knows. So then you press 5.3, it'll say hand out 5.3 or whatever it is through the TV speaker. So again, just reduces that cost for putting that out there if you wanted the audio anyway. Future developments. We have started with a team capability, but we've diverted just to get the scoring app tidied up. So that's and all the latest and all the new development capabilities within that, as we've just mentioned. So part of our future developments is we'll come back to teams, and so for our tournaments we can just run singles, doubles, mixed sort of tournaments for single capacities or double, as individual sort of sports. Where teams, I'm referring to, let's say there's maybe 4 players within a team from Auckland and they're playing against 4 players from the Bay of Plenty. And yet there's maybe 16 of you in this team that's all playing against each other, and there's a round robin, etc. So that's where team capability is what I'm referring to. We have done 50% of that, and of that development. So as soon as we've got the scoring app, hopefully by the end of this year, we will then be back onto the team capabilities, which will be fantastic because it's something that I'm personally really looking forward to having as part of all this. PayPal payment integrations. Again, so we have got some PayPal capabilities around the subscriptions, but we want to integrate this into our tournament capabilities. So now when you enter for a tournament, you can actually get a payment prompt and make payment as well. So that's where the PayPal payment integration comes in. Then we're looking at API with squash levels, which is where Squash New Zealand, in this case, are heading towards for their squash grading systems, which means with that API, we're hoping we are able to achieve by the minute you've scored that app on the scoring device, it'll go to our SME manager, and the person that's looking after that club or looking after that event can actually then mark all the matches they wish to send for grading, and they tick all those matches and they can send that to squash levels directly. So we will interface hopefully directly with squash levels. The same goes for WTN with the World Tennis Number. These new developments have API capability, which means we can reach into those spaces as well. Tournament control tips and tricks. This is the exciting part. Hopefully this is where you've all registered for this, because this is really some cool stuff here. Hopefully this comes in useful. So first one really for the tips and tricks is take payment at entry, right? This enforces the commitment, right? I've seen many tournaments where players have sort of entered into 3 different tournaments all on the same day, 3 different locations, just to see how it pans out. And then they pull out of 2 of them and they go to the one. And that's so painful for tournament control. So so definitely take payment early, because that forces their commitment. And then I would also seriously consider some no refund policies 48 hours prior to tournament, unless, of course, you have a valid excuse. Today's maybe COVID still is a valid excuse that you can't attend. But, so hopefully, I think just by taking that payment early is really going to help you do the draws, because that's so painful being tournament control. The time and hours spent on doing draws and then having players change and move is really time consuming, as I'm sure you can all appreciate. So anyway, take payment early. So number 1. The next one is player exceptions. When players enter, one of our things on Scoring Made Easy is, can you confirm that you're available for the whole day? And there's a tick box. It does nothing else. It just makes people think that, actually, I'm not actually available all day. Should I be entering this tournament? Otherwise, when they enter, they have got the ability to enter in the exception. For example, maybe they can just play only after 10 o'clock on Saturday. So therefore, you can they can put the exception in there, and that's visible from that little triangle we saw earlier, that you can then acknowledge, delete, clear, edit, whatever it is from that space there. So the idea with player exceptions is, when I see that come through on a tournament, I immediately go, fantastic, this person's going to make an awesome reserve, right? managing player exceptions and trying to manage every single player exceptions, the more you do it, the more you get. So I think you need to be, my recommendation here is be strict about your player exceptions. If you've entered a tournament on Saturday, Sunday, and you can't play all day Saturday, don't try and make an exception and try and make it work, right? Put them as a reserve, worst case. Otherwise, decline their entry and just say, I'm sorry, but this tournament is a Saturday, Sunday tournament. I can't accept your entry, all right? So yeah, please be mindful of player exceptions. Be strict is really what I'm saying. Talking about being strict, set a deadline, cut-off date, and try to stick to it. So it's a bit unfair for those who do stick to the deadline date. I recently ran a tournament where one team had more players they wanted to enter into the tournament, and so they didn't because they had missed the deadline date for this tournament. However, another team thought, that's all right, I'll just turn up with 5 extra people and hopefully they can play. So you can imagine how, that by allowing those 5 that play is really unfair to those that actually stuck to the rules of the deadline. So all I can suggest is set a deadline, keep to it, be strict. And if someone does turn up with 5 others, the simple answer is, I'm sorry, but the deadline was met. I've done the draws, because otherwise you, as tournament control, will spend another 3 or 4 hours just because these guys didn't enter on time in the first place. So be mindful of that. I personally feel let's try and be strict. I do get it, though, when we're trying to grow tournaments, trying to build tournaments, it's very difficult to be strict with all these. But as your tournament becomes more popular and things like that, I think it reinforces why you need to actually be strict with these too. And in fact, on that, why not be strict from the beginning? And if you only get 3 that entered, well, so be it. Let's build let's try and grow the capability. People are very capable of being able to enter a tournament. It's just no one wants to commit early at this stage, which is, I think, a lot of COVID has put that into how people operate. But I think we need to build that hey, if you haven't entered on deadline, you're not going to make this tournament, and therefore it forces people to do it. So that's my thinking. Is, again, speaking from tournament controls perspective. Yeah, just try and make it easier for you, to save you time and a lot of effort and a lot of rework as well. Be strict with those who are late for their matches. If they turn up half an hour or they don't turn up, default them. Honestly, I've played tennis at a competitive level, and I don't think I was ever defaulted. I was just going to say I was defaulted many times, but I haven't. But I have seen matches where they have basically said after 15 minutes and you have not arrived from your scheduled time, that match is defaulted. And the idea is here, you can then continue with those schedules. And also it doesn't impact those who were actually on time, because by you waiting for this 1 or 2 people that are late means you're now actually frustrating the other 80 people that are actually on time. So be strict, make your message clear. If they are not on time, default that match, move on. They can play the next one if there is a second match. If they don't turn up for the second one, scrap them from the whole tournament. Or hopefully they've communicated by then. But yeah, so again, I am trying to be strict around these tournaments, because that's helping you, because I'm mindful of you as tournament control. So you need to sometimes learn to say no and just be strict with it and follow the best principle. Late entries are painful. Yes, as I said earlier, sometimes if you are trying to grow your tournament, you're trying to take tournaments as late as possible. So remember, still try and take payment, because that guarantees they're going to turn up on the day. But I guess keep in mind that when there's a late entry, you run the risk of, are you going to put that person in the wrong grade? Is it affecting someone who's seen they're in this grade or this division, and suddenly you've added this person has knocked them out of that division, and they're now unhappy because they were in the top division. Now they're in the second, but they wanted to be in the top. So you can see how late entry can create a lot of pressures for you as tournament control. By allowing this one person, you can actually cheese off another 5 just by doing something like that. So it affects schedules. It impacts others who have followed the rules. All these things, so they are, late entries are painful. However, there's some exceptions. Let's say you've got a 8-draw tournament. You've set it up as an 8-draw, but you've only had 7 players, which means we normally try and guarantee 3 matches, or try and offer 3 matches for when there's a tournament entry, just sort of rule of thumb, really. So by adding a late entry as an 8th person into an 8 draw, that then at least enables the 3 matches guaranteed. All right. The other one is if they are filling in for someone else who was unable to make it, obviously then fantastic. We take that late entry, come on in, fill in for this person, and we replace that or edit the player and replace that player using Scoring Made Easy. We allow the capability to do that. Keep in mind, though, for the green items on the screen, you still have to take into consideration of making sure they're in the right grade, because there's nothing worse than maybe adding someone who's a late entry, putting them as the 7th seed, but actually they're top seed, so they then get easier games or wherever it may work, and they end up winning the competition. There's going to be questions asked, so make sure you get them in the right grade. And also it's going to affect schedules because there's going to be some additional matches that need to be played, so be mindful of that. Talking about that, stick to the schedule. So playing out of order affects other players' times and can cause queuing as well. So you may think, oh, these 2 players are ready, so let's grab them, let's put them on court. But what you don't realize is maybe that player was now got suddenly 2 in a match, or, they have to play 2 back-to-back or something like that. So let the schedules, the automation of whatever tournament software you are using, follow that schedule as close as possible, because that's probably going to space your stuff as best possible as well. So make sure you follow those schedules and try and stick to it. You do get people that come up to you and go, oh, look, can I please shift my match? I'm all the way down here. I'm ready to go. You know what I mean? But that's because it suits them. Everyone else is patiently waiting. So why make the exception for that one person that's doing that? So make sure you keep, so stick to the schedules as best possible is really the ultimate thing that I'm suggesting. Real-time dashboards. So TC shouldn't be the only one who knows what is happening next, right? So the idea here is when you're driving your car, you can see how fast you're going. You can see your revs, you can see your fuel, you can see your temperature, your kilometers. You can see everything in real time. You know what's happening right there, right now, right? So that's where find some software out there that can provide you these dashboards that you can understand when your next match is, what's the score, how long do I need to wait, how many matches do I have, all these things without having to go and ask tournament control these questions, because that's where it's very frustrating for tournament control, because they have to answer these 500 questions. Some people can manage it, some people can't. So just be mindful. If we can provide the tools to that TC or to tournament control, it reduces all those questions, and that's ultimately where we're at, which leads to our automation. So spend, your volunteers and your staff are the ones that you want them to spend their time doing the things that they're best at. You don't want to have them spending their time shuffling paper, sticking up paper things on the drawers, manually entering scores, things like that. You have potentially paid this person to do this, so give them a task that is actually within their pay grade. And if they're a volunteer, well, then my opinion there is appreciate them by providing them with the correct tools to help run at your facility as well. We have automated a lot of what we can do. So really a tournament, admittedly, if humans weren't involved and you didn't have people pulling out and all these sort of things, the tournament could actually self-run. So that's the aim. And the more strict we are around pullouts and replacements and things like that, the better we can run a tournament, the more successful your tournaments will be, and the better response from the 99% of people that are out there that are actually on time, they have paid, etc. It makes their tournament run well too. So keep that in mind. So to close, everything I've mentioned here is all on our SME Live app, which I said you can get as a free club app or facility app for your club, whether you're multi-sport or single sport. We've got live scores, schedules. You've got all the customizable features to be able to add additional links on here. There's my contact phone number. If you are seeing this from overseas, please be mindful that I am based in New Zealand, and therefore time zones, I won't be answering my phone at 1 a.m. So please add the +64 in front of the phone number if you do need to call me, or otherwise please drop me an email, and happy to have a Microsoft Teams session or a catch up with you over a Zoom or something like that, so we can then coordinate some times there. That ends this webinar that I wanted to cover today. We will do another one with an update on all on those developments especially. But if there's any other questions, please, as I say, contact me or reach out to me here, and happy to take you through some of those steps and all those capabilities. Thank you very much.